Hi. It was the way she laughed that gave it away. Not loud, not mocking, just a light, fluttery sound, as if the question itself was beneath her. We were getting ready for the gala that night. She was standing by the mirror in our bedroom, adjusting the strap of a dress I'd never seen before, deep navy, silk that clung to her like water. Beautiful, expensive. Too expensive. I'd noticed it the moment she pulled it out of the bag, still wrapped in delicate white tissue. No receipt. No tags. Just hanging there in our shared closet like it had always belonged. I'd asked casually, "That new?" She nodded, smiled faintly, and said, "Just something I picked up last week." At the time, I didn't think much of it. But now, standing there, tying my tie in the reflection of the mirror, the question surfaced before I even realized it was forming. Who paid for that dress? She met my eyes through the mirror, just for a second. Then the laugh. Soft. Controlled. Almost bored. "What does it matter?" she said, as she clipped on a pair of earrings I also didn't recognize. "I'm just curious," I said, trying to keep it light. "It doesn't look cheap." She turned toward me then, still smiling. "Well, it wasn't. But don't worry, you didn't buy it." She kissed me on the cheek like that was supposed to make it okay. Something in my stomach twisted, but I let it go. Or I thought I did. The gala was at the old museum downtown. Candlelight, string quartet, suits and sequins. She floated through the room like she owned it, laughing, smiling, sipping champagne. I stood beside her, proud but strangely distant. Like I was watching someone I used to know from across a glass wall. Everyone loved her. They always had. That night, we got home late. She went upstairs first, said she was exhausted. I stayed behind to lock up, but really, I just needed a minute to think. That dress, that laugh, that easy dismissal. It wasn't like her. Or maybe, I thought, maybe it was, and I'd just never noticed before. I climbed the stairs slowly. Our bedroom door was cracked open, the light still on. I could see her back as she unzipped the dress, sliding it off her shoulders with a practiced grace. She didn't see me standing there in the hallway. She hummed a song I didn't recognize. When she turned, I stepped in, pretending like I hadn't been watching. She smiled. "You look like you've seen a ghost." "I was just thinking about the dress," I said. "Where'd you get it?" Her smile didn't waver, but her eyes flickered, just briefly. "A boutique near the office," she said. "Why are you suddenly obsessed with this?" "I'm not," I said. "Just curious." She climbed into bed and turned off the lamp. "Well, try not to lose sleep over it." But I did. That night, I lay awake for hours, her back turned toward me, her breath slow and even. I stared at the ceiling, tracing the moments, little things I'd brushed aside. The sudden trips, the new perfume, the locked phone, the way she'd become careful with her words, like every sentence had to pass through a filter I couldn't see. The next morning, she left early, said she had meetings. She kissed my forehead, told me to take it easy. I watched her walk out the door, the click of her heels echoing in the hallway. And I sat there, at the kitchen table. My coffee went cold. I opened my laptop and logged into the credit card account we shared. Not because I was suspicious, at least that's what I told myself, but because something didn't sit right. The dress wasn't there. Neither was the boutique. In fact, her usual spending had dropped significantly over the past 2 months. Almost too clean. Too quiet. That's when I checked the other account. We'd had an older credit card, one I used mostly for travel points. She rarely touched it. But I remembered adding her as an authorized user years ago, back when everything was still simple. She hadn't used it. Not once. But in that moment, I had a thought. A stupid, paranoid thought. So I went further. I pulled the statements from her personal card, the one I'd helped her apply for when she started her job. She'd used it occasionally for small purchases. Brunch with friends. Office supplies. But the last 6 weeks? Almost nothing. Then, finally, I opened the banking app and scrolled through the savings account she had linked to that card. There it was. A payment. Not hers. $1,379.65. Marked simply as transfer from Chase Platinum. Not her account. Not mine. The name wasn't familiar. But I copied it, pasted it into a note, and stared at it. My chest was tight. My fingers were numb. That's when I checked the statement linked to that card. And there it was. One transaction. Marchetti Boutique. $1,379.65. The exact amount. The dress. I don't know how long I sat there. An hour? 2. The sunlight shifted across the floor as I just stared at that screen. And I couldn't stop hearing her laugh. You didn't buy it. No, I didn't. But someone did. And now I had a name. I memorized the name like it was an answer to a riddle I didn't want solved. Ethan Culverley. I didn't recognize it, but it stuck. Short. Clean. Not a name that screamed scandal, not someone from our circle. But there it was, tied to the card that paid for the dress, transferred money into her account, and didn't belong to either of us. At first, I thought maybe it was nothing. A family member? A friend? A coworker helping out? But you don't laugh like that. Dismissively, cruelly, if there's nothing to hide. You don't lie about where you got something unless you're trying to protect someone or protect yourself. I didn't confront her. I couldn't. Not yet. I needed more. I spent that day combing through every statement I could access. Her calendar. Her inbox. I didn't hack anything. I didn't need to. Her laptop was still synced to our home computer from when we used to share schedules. I told myself it wasn't snooping, it was self-preservation. But it was both, and I knew it. That's when I saw it. A recurring event, client strategy sessions, E. Culverley. Weekly. Thursdays. Downtown. I stared at the address. It was a co-working space. One of those sleek, overpriced hubs where everyone wears earbuds and pretends they're changing the world. She'd mentioned it before, said she used it to escape the noise at the office. There were photos, too. Not of them, not together, but of her. Ones I'd never seen. She looked happy in them, caught off guard in candid smiles. One was taken at a rooftop bar. The caption, at rendezvous_nights with EC. Tagged. Just 2 initials. Barely noticeable. But the date? It was the same night she'd told me she was at a work dinner with the girls. I remember that night. I stayed home and made dinner. Waited up. She came home late, kissed me half-heartedly, and said, "You're sweet for waiting." I believed her. The next morning, I called in sick to work. I told her I had a headache. She barely noticed, rushing out in a flurry of perfume and heels. I watched her drive off from our upstairs window. Then I dressed. I took the train into the city. Got off 2 stops early. Walked the rest of the way. My hands were sweating the whole time, heart pounding like I was marching towards something final. I wasn't sure what I'd find. I just knew I had to know. I waited across the street from the co-working building, coffee in hand, pretending to be on a call. 10 minutes passed. Then 20. And then I saw her. She wasn't alone. He walked beside her, tall, clean-cut, business casual in a way that tried to look effortless. He carried her laptop bag. She laughed at something he said. Not the empty laugh I got at home. This one looked real. They didn't touch, not then. But the closeness was there. Not physical, emotional. You know when someone leans towards someone not because they have to, but because they want to? That's what I saw. They disappeared into the building, and I just stood there, watching the door long after it had closed. His name was real. His presence was real. And suddenly, my role in our marriage felt performative. Like I was the understudy in a play I thought I'd written. That night, she came home early. She brought takeout. Thai, my favorite. Rough day? She asked. I looked at her for a long time. Tried to find the version of her I used to know. Yeah, I said. Rough. She kissed my forehead again. Same as always. But now it felt like an alibi. I ate in silence. She scrolled through her phone between bites. That weekend, I looked up Ethan Culverley. Not on social media. He was careful. But LinkedIn gave me a hint. He was a strategist. Freelance. Recently relocated. Single. The smile in his profile picture made my stomach churn. Not because he looked smug, but because he didn't. He looked like someone who didn't feel guilty. Like someone who didn't think he was doing anything wrong. I started imagining things. Them in meetings. Laughing over coffee. Inside jokes I'd never hear. Words whispered at her ear that I used to speak. That following Thursday, I went back. I waited again, across the street. And this time, I brought a camera. I don't know what I expected. A kiss? A confession caught on film? But what I saw was worse in its subtlety. They left together. Late afternoon. Smiling. She touched his arm, barely. But it lingered. Not scandalous. Just familiar. I snapped the photo without thinking. Click. Proof? Maybe. Or maybe I just wanted something physical. Something I could point to when everything else felt so slippery. When she came home that night, she was quiet. Tired, she said. Long day. She climbed into bed early and didn't ask about mine. I lay beside her, eyes wide open. That photo burned behind my eyelids. And I thought, this is what betrayal looks like now. Not lipstick on a collar. Not hotel keys or strangers calling in the night. No. It's casual touches and silent laughs and dresses paid for by men whose names you aren't supposed to know. And the worst part? She still smiled at me, still curled against me in her sleep like nothing had changed. But I had. It took me another week to say anything. Not because I didn't want to, but because I knew once I opened that door, there was no closing it. And maybe part of me still wanted to be wrong, still wanted it to be innocent, still wanted her to love me the way she used to. But the silence between us was growing teeth. Every smile from her felt rehearsed. Every text she answered in another room made me flinch. So, that Thursday night, I didn't wait across the street. I waited in the kitchen. She came in humming, same song from the other night. She didn't even notice I was sitting at the table until she dropped her bag on the counter. "You're home early," she said, surprised. "Everything okay?" I nodded slowly. "Can we talk?" Her smile faltered just a touch. "Sure," she said, cautious now. I slid the printed photo across the table. Her and Ethan. Sidewalk. Smiling. Her hand on his arm. She looked at it. Then at me. No gasp. No panic. Just a pause, long and brittle. "Where'd you get this?" "Does it matter?" I asked. She leaned back, crossing her arms. "So what? You followed me." "I asked who paid for your dress," I said, voice calm, too calm. "You laughed. You told me I didn't." "I checked. I didn't." She was quiet, her eyes on the photo. "Ethan did," I said, "and not just the dress." There was a long, hollow moment. I could hear the clock ticking over the fridge. My pulse in my ears. "I didn't sleep with him," she said finally. I looked at her, waited. "But you wanted to," I said. Not a question, just the truth, hanging there between us. She looked away. "I don't know what happened," she said. It wasn't supposed to be anything. We were working together, and he listened. He saw me, and I didn't want it to get messy. I didn't. But it did. Yes. There it was. No denials. No tears. Just a quiet, tired truth. She looked older in that moment. Not physically, but like something inside her had folded in. "I was lonely," she said. "You were always working. You were somewhere else, even when you were here." "I was building a life for us," I said. "I didn't ask for that," she replied, her voice sharper than before. "I asked for you." I swallowed that. I didn't respond. Because I'd heard that before, in books, in movies. I just never thought it'd be aimed at me. "And Ethan?" I asked. "Was he part of that life you wanted?" "No," she said, and I believed her. "But he filled a space. A small one. For a while." That line stayed with me. She filled the space between betrayal and apology with something that sounded like regret, but not quite guilt. I stood up, walked to the counter, picked up her bag, unzipped it, pulled out the statement I'd printed from her bank account. The transfer, his name, the boutique, the receipt. I laid them out like evidence in a courtroom. "Why lie?" I asked. "Why not just tell me?" She didn't answer for a long time. Then, "Because if I told you the truth, you'd look at me the way you're looking at me right now." And she was right. Because in that moment, I saw her for exactly what she was. Not a monster, not a villain, just a woman who had stopped choosing me a long time ago and didn't know how to say it. "I'm not angry," I said finally. She blinked. "You should be." "No," I said. "I'm just done." We didn't yell. We didn't cry. We just sat there in that awful silence. Her on one side of the table, me on the other. When I packed my things, she didn't try to stop me. She didn't beg. She just stood in the hallway, barefoot in a t-shirt, watching me carry a suitcase I never thought I'd have to use again. As I reached the door, she whispered, "Do you still love me?" I turned to her, keys in hand. "I think I always will," I said. "But I don't trust you. And that weighs more." I walked out. The air outside felt thin, like I had to relearn how to breathe. But it was honest air. It didn't lie to me. It didn't laugh in my face. And in that moment, that was enough. I moved in with a friend for a while. Took time. Took space. Let the pain move through me like weather. Some days were hard. Some nights, harder. But I never checked her social media. Never called. Never asked if she missed me. Because deep down, I knew she didn't. And that's okay. Because I missed myself more. Bye-bye.